students, today we're going to look at the rules for multiplying integers. That's multiplying positive and negative numbers together. So first we're going to look at the rules written out in words. If we're multiplying integers, so that's where one of the numbers is positive or both of the numbers are positive and one of the numbers is negative. If the two numbers have the same sign, so they're both positive or they're both negative, our answer is going to be positive. If the two numbers have different signs, so one of them's positive and the other one's negative, then our answer is going to be negative. Now, sometimes people have a hard time remembering that rule, so I use our little Mickey Mouse here to actually help us make that make a little bit more sense and make it easier. There's lots of different versions of the Mickey Mouse. Some teachers use a triangle with symbols in it. Some teachers make it into a schoolhouse. So it's just one strategy for helping to make this process a little bit easier to remember. So let's go ahead and practice, and then I'll show you how the Mickey Mouse actually works. So we're looking at doing some multiplication, and we can see that we're multiplying a -6. And again, these rules are only for multiplication and division, just like our Mickey Mouse ears tell us. So what we would do is we would actually cover up the signs that we see. So we would cover up a negative for the 6. Then we would cover up a positive because our 4 is positive. Now, whatever sign is left, that is the sign that our answer is going to have. So this means that our answer, because we have a negative left, it means our answer is negative. After we figure out the sign, all we have to do is multiply. So 6 times 4 is 24. Then we're going to go ahead and use our Mickey Mouse again for the next problem. Now, people always ask, well, what if you have more than two numbers? Well, remember, we only multiply 2 at a time. So we're still going to use the Mickey Mouse for the first two numbers, and then clear the board, and then use it again for the second two. So we've got a -8, so I would cover up a negative for the 8. We have a -5, so I would cover up a negative for the 5. And we can see that we have a positive left. So that tells us that when we multiply -8 times -5, we're going to get a positive answer. So 8 times 5 is 40. Then we bring down the 2. And now we notice that both numbers are positive. When we have two positives, we don't need Mickey Mouse anymore. This is just remembering back to 3rd grade when we learned our multiplication facts. So if all the numbers are positive, then of course the answer will be positive. So 40 times 2 is 80. Okay, let's go ahead and try a few more of these. So erase our Mickey Mouse for the next problem. Okay, and let's look here. Now this one's interesting. Now if your Mickey Mouse isn't there, you could always just real quickly sketch one out for yourself. Again, it does not have to be an artistic masterpiece. I am definitely not an artist. So just a real quick sketch. We get our two negatives and our positive. Now notice here that we've got exponents. And we need to be really, really careful with exponents. We're going to talk about two different versions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write out what this says. Now, where people get into trouble is with the negative in front of the exponent. So there is a huge difference between a problem written like this, -12 to the second power. That would mean -12 times -12. Okay, that's not what we see here. What we see in this problem is -12 to the second power. Now, I know you're thinking, wait a minute, that sounded exactly the same. But what's happening here is only the number 12 is being raised to the second power. So that would be 12 times 12. And then after we're done, we're bringing that negative down. So it's important that we're really careful when we're solving these and following those order of operations rules. So this becomes 3 times negative 12 times 12. So you could treat this a couple different ways. You could save the negative for the end, or you could think of this as negative 12 times positive 12, and then our answer will be negative. So we would end up with negative 144 times positive 3. So again, we would cover up a positive for the 3, a negative for the 144, so our answer will be a negative. And then if you can't do that multiplication in your head, there is nothing wrong with needing to write it out to the side. A lot of times people think they have to hide that arithmetic that they're doing. You do not. There is nothing wrong with needing to write that out to the side. Although I'm going to caution you, make sure it's off to the side. Now that we're starting to get into more complex problems, we're working down our page algebraically. When you get into algebra, some of the problems are going to take you, 5, 6, 7, 10 lines. And if you have arithmetic shoved in the middle, you're going to get lost. So always keep your arithmetic way off to the side, out of the way, so that it doesn't cause you any trouble. Okay, let's try another one. So here we go. All right, so this one's a little tricky because now people start going, I don't know, is that a negative? Is that subtraction? We really have to think through the problem. So what we know is that parentheses are a way of showing multiplication. So here we have multiplication, and then the next symbol we see is this. So that has to be a subtraction sign. So order of operations would tell us to do our multiplication first. And again, if we're using our Mickey Mouse, and if it's not on there, feel free to draw it for yourself. I always like to remind myself that it's only for multiplication and division. So I've got a negative 3, so I'm going to cover up a negative for the 3, and a positive 6. So I can see my answer when I multiply will be negative. 3 times 6 is 18. Now, this is where it's really important. This is subtraction. We do not use Mickey Mouse for subtraction. Notice he's only multiplication and division. So at this point, you might want to cross out your Mickey Mouse. Don't use him, don't forget. All right. Now, there's a couple different strategies we've looked at, but it's important to remember that we want to focus on what happens when we combine these. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is to use our keep, change, change. So we keep negative 18. We change subtraction to addition. We change positive 9 to negative 9. And now we see they're both negative. So if we think about our number line, we're starting here at negative 18 and we're moving 9 spaces that way. We're getting further and further and further from 0. So that means that we're going to still be in the negatives when we get our answer. And because they have the same sign, we just add these together. 18 plus 9 is 27. So we're going to go ahead and do some practice problems with multiplication and division.